Kia ora, and welcome to episode 143 of Business Your Way. At some stage in your business journey, you have to move away from doing everything yourself to bringing in a team to do the heavy lifting for you. This shift is one of the most important transitions and yet one of the most challenging transitions for most service-based business owners. And that's because up until that point that you bring on a team, your business has been built on your expertise, your relationships, and your ability to get things done. But if you want to move away from being a solopreneur and move into scaling your business, then you're going to need a team, because you will want to scale your business in a way that frees you up rather than burns you out. And it's not about figuring out how to do it all. It's about deciding who should be coming along for the journey and helping you do the mahi. And that's what we're diving into today. How do you shift away from being the person doing the doing to the person leading your business? How do you ensure the right people are in place to make your business systems work? And most importantly, how do you lead in a way that fosters both business growth and a thriving team culture? Kia ora and welcome to Business Your Way. I'm your host, Sandra Julian, a certified business coach with over 2 decades of experience in building and scaling businesses. Over that time, I've learned that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to business success. What matters is finding the approach that works for you. So this podcast is all about helping you scale your service-based business with strategies that align with your soul and your values. I want to help you drop that hustle culture and focus on more sustainable, soul-aligned growth. I invite you to join me in each episode for insights and actionable steps that will work for you. Let's make your business feel right for you in a way that truly fits with your life and the life that you want to live. Just before we get into the podcast, I wanted to share a couple of books with you that have helped shape my leadership journey over the years. One of the books is Dan Sullivan's Who Not How. And this completely changed the way that I was thinking about delegation and growth. And the other book is Kim Scott's Radical Candor, which this book was really instrumental in changing the way that I communicated and led my team. I really resonated with how Kim was building a team culture that was honest and open with transparency, giving feedback that was direct and timely. I had been looking for years for a system or a way or best practice that would work for me, but all I'd come up against until I read this book was big business kind of annual reviews and really formal practices around HR best practices in an organization. And it felt really clunky for me as a small business owner. So this was one of the books that I read over and over and over again, and then picked out sections and really began to change the way I was thinking, change the way I was communicating, and that led in the end to how I was leading the team. So during this episode, I'm going to be drawing the lessons that I learned from both of these books, so I can share with you some things that I think would be helpful in you making that shift from doing everything to bringing on a team to help you scale your business and be able to do that with confidence. So let's start by talking about shifting from doing to leading. If you've been running your business solo for a while, or maybe you've got a small team, but you're still the one overseeing everything that they're doing, you'll know how exhausting that can be. Overseeing what everyone else is doing it might as well be just one step removed from you actually doing the job. And that's not why we bring on a team. So at some point, if you want to grow and keep your sanity, you're going to have to stop thinking about how do I get this done? And you're going to have to start asking yourself, who can do this for me? And this was a huge mindset shift for me. When I first started bringing people into my business, I wasn't thinking strategically about who I needed. I was just hiring people based on what needed to get done. So I would compile all of the tasks into a job and then go look for a person to do that job. And that's where who, not how makes all the difference. So if you haven't read the Who, Not How book by Dan Sullivan, I would recommend having a read, or if like me, you like audiobooks, having a listen. I can't say that I've got this fully nailed, but I am much further along the journey than I was, a few years ago. For me, it's still very much a work in progress. And maybe that's because I am a task, orientated person. But one of the biggest takeaways for me from the who, not how, is that when you stay stuck in the how mindset, you limit your growth. And I was very much stuck in the how mindset. So instead of thinking, how do I build a new system, or how do I create more time in my week, the better question is, who is the best person to take this on? Who is the best person to get this job done? But even more important than that, it's not just about getting tasks off your plate. It's about finding people to bring their own strengths and expertise into your business. You want people who will bring their expertise to the table, people who can take ownership of their role so that you're not constantly checking and fixing their things, or they're not relying on you to come up with all the solutions, or for you to be the quality police. Because that can easily happen. You might think that you've hired the right who, but because of you just handing off tasks instead of responsibility, they're still coming back to you to sign off on everything. And that's where the mistake is easily made. So I had to learn that I wasn't just hiring people to help me, I was bringing people in who were taking responsibility for certain things inside my business. And once I embraced that mindset, my business started to run a lot smoother. I had more time in my day to work on the things that only I could work on. And in some cases, I already had the right people on my team, but I hadn't explicitly asked them to take responsibility. But actually, it was more than that, is I hadn't completely handed over responsibility to them and explicitly said to them, you are completely responsible for this. And I think this is where a lot of service-based business owners particularly get themselves tripped up. You find the right people, you delegate, and then you expect it to just work. And sometimes not sometimes, all of the time actually, that never just works. And that's where things can go sideways, is that unspoken assumption and expectation. Is that, okay, I've got the right person. Here you go. I'm going to delegate this to you. And then you just leave them to it. And the next time you look up or check in on them or, get alongside them, you find that nothing is running the way that you wanted it to, or that you had expected that it would. So nothing is just going to work, because delegation is one thing, but leadership is a completely different thing. And that's where radical candor comes in at this point. And I think that's the lesson I learned the hard way. is, bringing people into your business is one thing, leading them is a completely different thing. If you don't set the expectations or give clear feedback in a timely manner or communicate openly with your team members, you'll end up frustrated. And it won't be just you that'll get frustrated. They will also get really frustrated. So that's what I love about Radical Candor. The book delivers a really great system, and it simplifies leadership into something really practical. And I'm a really practical person. But the other thing that I really took away from this book, and that's balancing care with challenge. Because I think that's the piece that I found really hard, was that I was a small business. The people that I was employing, I knew them. I knew where they lived. I knew their kids. I knew their partner. We lived in the same community. It wasn't as if we were strangers and the only time we saw each other was at work. I live in a really small community. And so I cared about the individual. I cared about them as a person. And so when things weren't going right, and I really had to challenge the way that things were getting done, I found that really difficult. And I struggled for a long time in how to navigate that. But once I read Radical Candor, like the penny dropped. And finally, I got away and I got a system and I got some processes that balanced the caring for a person while challenging the role being carried out and the tasks being done or the responsibility being held. Radical Candor brought both of those things together for me, because I'm a really big believer that you need to care about your team as people while also being able to challenge them to do their best work. You know that they're capable of doing great work, but it's how do you bring that out in them? How do you get them to acknowledge that they are really capable, that they are really good at something, and that they can bring their best work to work every day? And where I see service-based business owners struggling is either avoiding the tough conversations because they don't want to be too harsh, or they are overly critical without building the relationships because they think that being a leader means that they have to be tough, that they have to be removed. And if you've ever watched the movie Devil Wears Prada, you'll know exactly what I mean. And neither of those two things work, right? Is avoiding the tough conversations, that's only going to be detrimental to both you and your staff. But what I found is that if you care about your people, but you don't challenge them, you end up with a team that feels good, but doesn't perform to the level that you need. And if you challenge them, but don't show them that you care, they feel like they are working for a boss, not a leader, that they're just turning up to do a job that they don't care too much about. So I had to learn that giving feedback is a gift. The clearer I am with my team, the more successful that they are, and the less micromanaging that I have to do. Because no one wants to be micromanaged and no one wants to be the micromanager. So when you change your mindset to a space where you can think of feedback as being a gift, and that the clearer that you can be with your team, the more successful they are going to be, and therefore the more successful your business is going to be. So if at the moment you're finding delegation isn't quite working, it isn't quite working how you want it to work, and you're still having to either micromanage or oversee everything, then try asking yourself these questions. Have I actually told this person what success looks like in their role? And that's really important, because when you can communicate what success looks like for you and what you expect success will look like if they are good in their role, now they don't have to assume. Now they know. So the next question I want you to ask yourself is, am I avoiding a conversation because I don't want to be mean? And quite honestly, you don't have to be mean. You just have to have the conversation and have the uncomfortable conversation to get to a common understanding. It's not about the person, it's about the role, the job, or the task. So you're not attacking someone's character, you're just having a conversation that is direct about the performance and what success looks like. The other question I want you to ask yourself is, have I created a culture where feedback is normal and not just given when something's wrong? Because feedback isn't just negative, feedback is positive. So when you want to give feedback that is a positive reinforcement that they're doing a great job, then your team member will know that that's the path that they need to carry on with. And then feedback when you need some course correcting isn't so hard because feedback is now normal. All feedback, good, not so good, okay, whatever that feedback is, if that becomes a normal part of how you communicate with your team, then you're not really going to differentiate between good or bad feedback. It's just going to be feedback because we are both making sure that we understand what success looks like, and that's what we're aiming for. So I think about feedback as acknowledgement of a job well done and course correcting when it's not going so well, or the job being done isn't up to standard, isn't up to the standard that you would like it to be. So when you combine who, not how, getting the right people and the right roles with radical candor, which is about leading them with clear, honest communication, you can build a business that runs without you being the bottleneck. And that's the goal, right? From my experience in talking and working with service-based business owners, they love what they do and they don't necessarily want their business to run without them. They just want their business to run without them doing everything or being the bottleneck. So when you can make these two shifts, shift in your mindset and shift in the way that you're doing things, you'll find everything changes. Now, it's not going to change overnight, but with consistency and perseverance, you will see change over time. And you will get to be the leader of your business, not the micromanager and not the bottleneck and not the person that works every moment of every day and sacrifices everything else in your life. So if I have created some interest in these two books for you, or this is currently what you're trying to navigate in your business, then I encourage you to go and take a read of both of those books. They've been influential in the way that I think about my business, how I encourage my clients to think about how they're going to scale their business without burning themselves out. So if today's episode has got you thinking about how to start delegating more effectively, I've got a resource as well that can help you. So inside my system creation toolkit, you'll find my delegation checklist, and that's designed to help you identify what to handle first. Inside the toolkit, you'll also find a time audit resource so you can track where your time is actually going and then be able to spot the tasks that are perfect for delegation. There's a whole lot of other tools and resources inside of the systems creation toolkit. So if you are ready to take your next step, go read one of the books and then go get the system creation toolkit. Head on over to sandrajulian.co/system toolkit to grab access to all of these resources. I will also pop a link down in the show notes so you can just click and go get that. Alrighty, let's do a very quick recap on this episode. So scaling your business isn't about piling more onto your plate. It's about bringing in the right people so that you can step into your role as leader. And one of the most important mindset shifts in scaling your business is moving from the how do I do this to the who is the best person for this. And that's exactly what Who Not How is all about. So if you're in that phase, go read that book, go grab my delegation checklist and my time audit resource. But delegation in and of itself isn't really enough. Once you have your team in place, then Radical Candor gives you the tools to lead them. Balancing honesty, direct feedback with genuine care in a way that your team can thrive in their roles and you can thrive in your role as leader. So when you get this balance right, your business becomes more efficient, your team feels empowered, and you're finally freeing up yourself to focus on the bigger picture and scaling your business. So I'd love to hear how this episode has landed for you. There is a link in the show notes, sandrajulian.co/ask me. You can drop me a text message or a voice message in there. Or if you are a social media type person, then you can drop on over to LinkedIn or to Instagram, drop me a DM. Let me know about your leadership journey and whether this episode has been helpful for you, or if you have any questions in how you're approaching delegation or team recruitment or leadership in your business. I'd love to be able to help you with this journey. It's one that I have thoroughly enjoyed moving my mindset over the last few years. And I finally feel like I'm the leader that I was always meant to be. So stepping into that leadership role, I think is more of a mindset shift than a practical action piece. But we have to take practical action alongside the shift in mindset in order to really step into your role as leader and not just business operator. Alrighty, that's what I've got for you today. So now you can go out there, scale your business, enrich your life, and amplify your impact. Just before you go, I wanted to say thanks for spending some time with me today. If today's episode was helpful, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you know another business owner who could use the advice from this episode, please send this their way. Sharing is the best way to help more service-based business owners grow sustainably. I'd also love if you could leave a quick rating and review of the show. It helps more people find the podcast, and I would truly appreciate your support. You'll find all of the links in the show notes, including buttons to make it easy for you to share. Catch you next time on Business Your Way.